What's up guys, I'm Joshua Yale, and here are some things you might have missed watching X-Men Days of Future Past. There's a lot of references to other movies, some cool cameos, and a few Easter eggs from the comics, but we're going full spoilers, so watch out. Here we go. First up, in the X-Men Days of Future Past comic, it was Kitty Pryde who went back in time, not Wolverine. But as a nod to this, they gave her time-phasing power so she could be the one who sends him back. When Quicksilver hears Magneto say that he can control metal, he says that his mother used to know somebody who could do that. We also see the Maximoff family name on the mailbox outside Quicksilver's home. This confirms what we know in the comics, that Quicksilver, Pietro Maximoff, is Magneto's son. And that little girl, could that be the Scarlet Witch? And finally, their mother was a gypsy named Magda, not an American woman living in the suburbs. While we're talking about Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, it's worth noting that both Fox and Marvel own movie rights to those characters. So believe it or not, Quicksilver will also appear in the Avengers sequel, played by a completely different actor. We caught a glimpse of him and his sister in the Captain America the Winter Soldier post-credits scene. But due to not being able to reference Magneto, the X-Men, or mutants, they're simply called miracles. But back to the movie. When Magneto impales Wolverine with all those metal rods, their twisted shape jutting out of his body is a direct homage to a classic image from the comics. One of Magneto ripping the metal out of Wolverine's body. Pretty much the exact opposite is happening in the movie, but it's still cool to see. Now unfortunately, we didn't get a Stan Lee cameo in this one, but two other X-Men comic writers did as a pair of US senators. Chris Claremont, who wrote the X-Men Days of Future Past comic, and Len Wein, who created Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and you guessed it, Wolverine. We watched Mystique save 4 enlisted mutants from being taken away for William Stryker's experiments. But who are they? There's Toad from the original X-Men movie, Ink from the Young X-Men comic, Spike, who we all fondly remember from the X-Men Evolution cartoon, and Havoc from X-Men First Class. Speaking of Havoc, when Magneto goes to steal his helmet back, we see 3 other items from First Class. Havoc's damaged harness, the coin Magneto used to kill Sebastian Shaw, and one of Angel's insect wings. That's disgusting. Even worse for Angel, we learn that she had been killed between First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past. And not just her, other characters like Banshee, Emma Frost, and Azazel didn't survive either. This next one is really weird, so bear with me. Stryker is the man who experimented on Wolverine and covered his bones in that sweet, sweet unbreakable adamantium metal, as we learned in X2. But Stryker was also in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is where he first met Wolverine in Vietnam. But now in Days of Future Past, Stryker is 20 years younger, doesn't know Wolverine, and Wolverine never once mentions being in Vietnam. But I'm not worried about it, all because of the timeline fixes we saw play out in Xavier's skull at the end of the movie. We saw everyone get a happy ending, like Jean Grey and Scott coming back to life, and Iceman and Rogue getting back together. But another couple we saw was Kitty Pryde and Colossus. This was never hinted at in the movies, but they had an amazing, long-lasting relationship in the comics. And last of all, that post-credits scene. We hear a crowd chanting "En Sabah Nur" as a blue-skinned mutant builds pyramids just by lifting up his hands. There's also a quick glimpse at 4 dudes on horses. En Sabah Nur is big X-Men bad guy Apocalypse, and those are his 4 horsemen: war, pestilence, famine, and death. This is an awesome setup for the next movie, X-Men Apocalypse. For the full story on Apocalypse, check out our Comics History 101 video. Once again, I'm Joshua Yale, and for everything X-Men, keep it locked to IGN.